Hello everyone, it's Nicole Steele, the owner and designer of The Joyful Stamper. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, and every Saturday I come to you with a YouTube video showing you how I take a weekly sketch from Splitcoaststampers and I make a fairly simple card with it. So if you go to my blog, thejoyfulstamper.com, every Saturday you'll see the card sketch, you'll see a replay of this video, and you'll also be able to download a written tutorial for the card that I am making. So just trying to, people learn different ways, and I want to give you all the ways that you can to learn card making. So today's card, this is sketch number 818 from Splitcoaststampers, and I decided to use the Gilded Autumn Specialty Designer Series paper that's in Stampin' Up's Holiday Mini Catalog because this sketch is a great way to show off the Designer Series paper and to mix and match the patterns. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start with an 8.5 by 5.5 inch piece of thick, very vanilla cardstock, and I scored it in the middle at 4 1/4 inches. Now Stampin' Up! Has regular, very vanilla cardstock and thick. I always use the thick whenever I am going to be using it as my card base. That way I can layer on the paper and embellishments and it'll be sturdy enough and thick enough to stand up to it. So I've got 2 pieces of Gilded Autumn Designer Series paper. I'm going to use these patterns, but there's other patterns on the opposite side that you can use too. And this paper comes in a 12 by 12 inch size. So you can make lots of cards, scrapbook pages, whatever you want with this. Now these pieces, I have it in the PDF what size they are, but I'm going to glue them down. They're going to cover the entire card base. So I believe it's 2 1/8 of an inch by 5.5 inches. Now, a little trick to make sure you get it lined up is to just tap the sides of your card like this, and that'll be sure to straighten your paper up like that. I don't know about you, but sometimes I get little blank spots on the edges of my card when I'm trying to completely cover it, and sometimes it irritates me. So this is a nifty little trick to make sure it's all nice and evenly lined up. Don't you love these colors? It's early espresso, Cajun craze, mint macaron, soft suede, very fall themed, and that's what I like about it. Okay, so I'm taking another piece of Gilded Autumn Designer Series paper. That's the back side, but I'm going to use this side. This is a 3 by 3 inch square. Now the card sketch has triangles coming in from the left and right sides. I found the easiest way to do it was to cut a 3 inch by 3 inch square piece of paper, and I'm going to use my paper trimmer to cut it diagonally. So I'm going to use this paper, the track right here, and I'm going to put the 2 points, the top point and the bottom point, in the paper trimmer track, close it, and I'm going to press it down firmly so that the paper doesn't shift, and I'm going to slowly cut it. Just take your time and you get 2 triangles. And they will be glued on the sides of your card there. Now if you have square dies, you could use those to cut a piece of paper and then use your paper trimmer like I just showed you to cut it diagonally. That would work too. So if you have, let's say, our layering squares dies or the stitch shapes dies, you could experiment with those to see which size you like, and that way you'd get, scalloped edges or stitched edges if you want to make it a little bit fancier. It's your card. You can do whatever you want. But I really hope these Saturday sketch videos show you how to let a sketch inspire your stamping. That's the goal of it. You don't have to always follow a sketch exactly. Now this piece of early espresso cardstock was die cut with a die from the Painted Labels dies. They're meant to coordinate with the Painted Poppies stamp set, but I liked this particular die in it. It reminded me of a fall wreath. So I decided for my focal point on this card, I was going to make a fall wreath. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this onto my card. And I especially like the stitching around the center of this wreath. Now that stitching is going to get mostly covered up by the leaves that I'm going to put on here in a minute. So these leaves came from the Gathered Leaves die set that is found in Stampin' Up's Holiday Mini Catalog. And I die cut them from the brushed metallic cardstock pack. And I used the copper and the bronze cardstock that's in that metallic pack. And I used all the leaf dies in Gathered Leaves dies to get the different sizes. And not only cuts them, but it embosses them too. So you get that great detail and texture in there. And I am going to use liquid glue to adhere them to my wreath. But if you're a longtime stamper, you might know this trick. But if you're new to stamping, maybe you don't. So I'm going to arrange all my pieces on here first of all. And I want to make sure that I don't want two of the same leaves together side by side. I want some variety here. So let's see. Let's just mix and match it up. I want different colors, different textures, different sizes around my wreath. And I want some of my wreath to poke through. So I'm going to arrange it. So does this ever happen to you? You get it laid out and you think, ooh, I've got it perfect. But then guess what? You have to take it all apart so you can apply the glue, right? And then you don't get it back quite the way you wanted it to. Well, you can take Glad Press and Seal, which you probably have in your kitchen. Take a piece of it. Once you have your arrangement the way that you want it, leave it be. Take the Glad Press and Seal and carefully lay it on that arrangement and just press down on it. Oh, you know what? It would help if you would do the sticky side down. So the sticky side down of the press and seal is what goes on your card elements. Press them down and then gently lift them up off your card and they'll stay in that arrangement. So now what you can do is go in and apply your glue. And I'm going to cover all of these leaves because I want them to stay in place. Then bring your card back into the picture, pick up the Glad Press and Seal, and lay it back onto your card. And press down so that the adhesive that you applied will take hold. Now, to peel off the press and seal, I start in the top left corner and I hold down my card elements because the glue hasn't 100% set yet. So they will shift if you don't hold on to them. And I slowly, carefully peel that press and seal off. And there you go. The way that you had it arranged is the way it stays. Isn't that a great trick? You know, it's been around for a while, but I remember how mind-blowing it was when I first heard about it. I thought, wow, that is great. Because that was always so frustrating when I'd randomly lay the pieces down and I'm like, it's perfect, but now I gotta move it to glue it. So use your Glad Press and Seal so that it stays perfect. Now to get the greeting for this wreath, I'm actually going to use the High Tide stamp set because I liked this sentiment right here. That word shine I thought fit very aptly with the shine of the metallic brushed gold cardstock and the foiling that's in this Gilded Autumn Specialty paper. I'm going to use Cajun Craze ink to ink up this sentiment. And then I'm going to show you what I like to do with a blender pen. I'm stamping this onto a piece of very vanilla cardstock. I stamped it a little bit crooked, but that's okay. We're going to hand trim it anyways. I'm taking a blender pen, and what I'm going to do is, if you do this immediately after stamping it, the ink is still wet enough that you can sort of smear it, and I absolutely adore this blurry look. Now I realize it's not the look for everybody, so if you don't want to do it, don't do it. You can totally skip this step, but I love the way it highlights and softens the sentiment. So I used a blender pen to do that, and I did it immediately after I stamped my sentiment. That's when it works best. Now the blender pens, they come in a pack of 3. and you don't need to dedicate a tip to each color. Once you're done using it with a specific color, you can scribble it on some scratch paper, and when it comes clear, then you can use it with a different color. And you can use either tip, it doesn't matter. So they come in a pack of 3. I think they're $12 in our catalog. All right, now I'm gonna take a pair of paper snips, and I went ahead and fussy cut around that, but I already did that, so you don't have to sit here and watch me do it. So I trimmed it really close, doesn't need to be perfect, and I'm gonna use Stampin' Dimensionals. Oh, you can see I use my scraps. I save all my papers. If they're large enough for me to stamp on or punch, I keep them and reuse them. So that must have been a mistake from a previous project. And I'm gonna put this right in the middle of my wreath like this. Okay, now an extra step I took is we have wooden embellishments, and no, Stampin' Up! No longer has the acorn wooden embellishments, but they do have a Forever Greenery pack of embellishments in the annual catalog, and they will work just fine with this card also. But what I discovered was really fun to do was to color with my Stampin' Blends on the wooden embellishments. So for this particular acorn, I'm going to start with a dark crumb cake marker, and I'm going to use the brush tip. You can use the bullet tip if you like. It's whatever you feel most comfortable with. There is not a right and wrong to using them. And I'm gonna color the entire acorn. This was dark crumb cake. Now I'm going to take, what did I use? Dark soft suede. And again, I'm gonna use the brush tip, and I'm gonna color just the stem and the cap of this acorn. And I didn't try to get it too perfect because I want it to look natural, rustic, organic, you know, whichever term you prefer, but I just didn't want it to look perfect, which is not too hard for me to accomplish, right? Now, wooden embellishments I find stick best with mini glue dots. I like to use them with the wooden embellishments, and I'm going to use 2 of them. And I'm going to put this one right here. And put one on the top, one on the bottom. Now with your wooden embellishments, you don't want to treat them too roughly because they can break and snap. Some of the pieces can be quite fragile. So have a light touch when you are working with the wooden embellishments. Now to finish this card off, I'm bringing in some gold glitter enamel dots, and I'm going to put a couple, just scatter them around my card here. So I am going to take this little one, and I'm going to stick one on the acorn, and I'll put another one down here in this acorn, and let's take a larger one, put it up there. Now, no, I do not have a scientific stamping process for doing this. I just put them wherever I like. When I have loose embellishments like sequins or buttons, sometimes I'll just drop them on my card, and wherever they lie is where I apply them. But these already have adhesive on the back of them, so I can't just drop them. So that is the Saturday sketch card. So that was number 818 from Split Coast Stampers. Head over to my blog, thejoyfulstamper.com, if you want the written tutorial that you can print, save, pin to a board that you have, whatever you want to do with it. And I would so appreciate too if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. So be sure to hit subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notified every time I do post a video. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys, and I will see you next Saturday. Bye.